In the heart of 18th-century Prussia, a quiet, unassuming man named Immanuel Kant walked the cobblestone streets of Königsberg. His life, like the city itself, was a tapestry of routine, a predictable rhythm of teaching, writing, and his daily walks. But beneath this unassuming exterior, a mind was churning, grappling with the fundamental questions of existence. Kant, you see, was no ordinary man. He was a philosopher, a seeker of truth, a man who dared to question the very nature of reality. He was troubled by the conflicting ideas of his time, the cold, hard logic of rationalism versus the empirical observations of the world. He felt, deep in his heart, that there had to be a better way, a way to reconcile these two seemingly opposing forces. And so, he began to write. He poured his thoughts onto paper, crafting intricate arguments and complex theories. He questioned the limitations of human understanding, the very structure of our minds, and how they shaped our perception of the world. He believed that our minds were not passive receivers of information, but active creators of reality. We didn't just see the world as it was, we constructed it through the lens of our own understanding. This, he argued, was the key to understanding the laws of nature, the principles of morality, and even the very meaning of life itself. His masterpiece, The Critique of Pure Reason, was a philosophical bombshell. It challenged the very foundations of thought, suggesting that our knowledge was not simply a reflection of the external world, but a product of our own minds. It was a radical idea, a revolutionary leap forward in the history of philosophy. But Kant didn't stop there. He went on to explore the nature of morality, the freedom of the will, and the role of reason in shaping our beliefs. He argued that we are not simply creatures of instinct, but beings capable of self-determination, of choosing our own path, of creating our own moral code. And through it all, Kant remained a man of routine, a quiet observer of the world. He continued his daily walks, his mind always churning, always seeking answers to the profound questions of life. He was, in many ways, a contradiction, a man of simple habits, yet a revolutionary thinker, a man who sought to understand the world, yet believed that our understanding was ultimately limited. But his legacy lived on. Kant's ideas became the foundation for modern philosophy, influencing generations of thinkers and shaping our understanding of the world around us. He taught us to question, to challenge, to think for ourselves. He showed us that the human mind is a powerful tool, capable of great things, and that our understanding of the world is ultimately a product of our own creation. 1. Life and Works. The year is 1724, and the air hangs heavy with the salt spray of the Baltic Sea. A small town, Königsberg, nestled near the southeastern shore, buzzes with the rhythm of daily life. It's here, in this seemingly unremarkable place, that a young boy named Immanuel Kant is born. His family, though humble, is steeped in the traditions of craftsmanship. His father, a master harness maker, instills in him the values of hard work and honesty. His mother, a woman of surprising intellect for her time, fuels his love for learning. But young Immanuel's world is not without its shadows. The family struggles financially, and the weight of responsibility falls upon his young shoulders. He attends a pietist school, where the emphasis on introspection and religious fervor leaves him feeling suffocated. He yearns for something more, something intellectually stimulating. This yearning leads him to the classics, a refuge from the soul-searching he is forced to endure. The beauty of Latin literature ignites a fire within him, a passion for knowledge that will forever shape his destiny. And so, he embarks on a journey, leaving the confines of his hometown to pursue higher education at the University of Königsberg, a place where the spirit of intellectual inquiry reigns supreme. The university becomes a crucible for young Kant's mind. He immerses himself in the world of philosophy, his early fascination with classics quickly giving way to a deeper exploration of the human condition. He grapples with the ideas of giants like Leibniz and Wolff, absorbing their wisdom and challenging their limitations. His thirst for knowledge leads him to the work of Isaac Newton, whose theories about the universe profoundly influence his own thinking. Years pass, and the young man blossoms into a brilliant scholar. He becomes a private tutor, his sharp intellect captivating the minds of his young charges. But the allure of academia calls to him, and he returns to Königsberg, ready to share his knowledge with the world. He lectures at the Albertina, his words resonating with a fervor that draws students from far and wide. His lectures, a vibrant tapestry woven with the threads of logic, metaphysics, and ethics, become legendary. His mind, a boundless ocean of thought, delves into the mysteries of the universe, seeking answers to the fundamental questions that have plagued humanity for centuries. His early works, though not groundbreaking, reveal the spark of genius that lies within. He challenges the established doctrines, questioning the very nature of reality and the limits of human understanding. He delves into the mysteries of the mind, exploring the relationship between reason and emotion, the tangible and the intangible. Then, in a moment of revelation, he embarks on a project that will forever change the landscape of philosophy. He dedicates years to crafting his magnum opus, The Critique of Pure Reason, a work that explores the very foundations of human knowledge. It's a monumental undertaking, a testament to his relentless pursuit of truth. His work resonates across Europe, solidifying his reputation as a leading intellectual of his time. But Kant's brilliance is not limited to the realm of abstract thought. He delves into the complexities of morality, politics, and aesthetics, his insights influencing generations of thinkers to come. As the years pass, the once vibrant young man becomes a venerable elder statesman, his mind still sharp, his spirit unyielding. His legacy, however, goes far beyond the confines of academia. His ideas, like the ripples of a stone dropped into a still pond, continue to reverberate through time, shaping the way we understand ourselves and the world around us. And so, the story of Immanuel Kant, the humble son of a harness maker, transforms into a tale of intellectual triumph, a testament to the boundless power of the human mind. His life, a journey of relentless inquiry, continues to inspire and challenge us, reminding us that the pursuit of knowledge is a lifelong endeavor, a quest that transcends the boundaries of time and space. 2. Kant's project in the Critique of Pure Reason. Imagine a world where everything you know, everything you've ever seen, heard, or felt, fades away. Imagine trying to understand the world without any experience to draw on, without the comfort of past memories or the guidance of your senses. That's the kind of mental space Immanuel Kant wanted us to explore in his monumental work, The Critique of Pure Reason. He wasn't a madman, obsessed with some impossible dream. Instead, he was a philosopher, a seeker of truth, and he saw something deeply unsettling in the way we understand the world. We humans, he argued, are prone to believing we can grasp the fundamental nature of reality, the very essence of things, without ever truly experiencing them. We like to think we can reason our way to absolute truths, even without the help of our senses. Kant called this pursuit metaphysics, the study of what lies beyond the physical world. But he wasn't interested in simply exploring these grand ideas. He wanted to know, could we truly know things outside the realm of our senses? Was it even possible to have knowledge that wasn't based on experience? He likened this quest to a voyage into the depths of our own minds, a journey to the very core of our reasoning abilities. He wanted to understand the limits of human reason, to find out if our minds were capable of grasping the ultimate truths of existence, or if we were destined to forever wander in the twilight zone between what we can know and what we can only imagine. His journey, like any great exploration, began with a map. He meticulously laid out the terrain of human knowledge, tracing the paths of reason and experience, carefully marking the boundaries of what we could and couldn't know. His goal wasn't to banish metaphysics altogether, but to make it a more rigorous, disciplined pursuit, to ensure that it was grounded in a deep understanding of the human mind and its limitations. Kant believed that human reason is a powerful tool, but it needs to be used carefully and with a healthy dose of self-awareness. We must be willing to acknowledge the limits of our own minds, to recognize that some questions might be beyond our reach, and to accept that our understanding of the world will always be shaped by the constraints of our own experience. So, the next time you find yourself pondering the fundamental nature of reality, the origins of the universe, or the meaning of life, remember Kant's cautionary tale. He reminds us that the journey of understanding is a lifelong one, and that the most profound truths are often found not in the grand pronouncements of reason, but in the quiet introspection of our own minds. 2.1 The Crisis of the Enlightenment. The air crackled with a potent mix of excitement and apprehension. It was the late 1780s, and the world was in the midst of a revolution, not of blood and fire, but of ideas. The Enlightenment, a movement fueled by the dazzling successes of modern science, had swept through Europe, promising a world where reason reigned supreme and humanity could finally unshackle itself from the shackles of tradition. Imagine, if you will, a young scholar named Immanuel Kant perched in his study, his quill scratching furiously across the parchment. He, like many of his contemporaries, was captivated by the Enlightenment's promise, but he also saw a growing unease. Was reason, this powerful new force, truly a benevolent ruler, or would it lead to a chillingly cold and sterile world, where morality and faith were swept aside by the relentless march of scientific progress? Kant, a man of deep thought and even deeper conviction, couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The very science that had ignited the Enlightenment seemed to be throwing a wrench into the gears of human experience. If the universe truly operated like a vast, intricate machine, driven by cold, impersonal laws, then where was the room for free will, for the soul, for the very essence of what made us human? The tension was palpable. Could reason, this champion of progress, also be its own undoing? Could it dismantle the very foundations upon which morality and faith rested? These were the questions that gnawed at Kant's mind, driving him to embark on a monumental intellectual journey. His answer, a work of sheer brilliance and unyielding determination, would become known as the Critique of Pure Reason. It was a bold attempt to chart the limits of human reason, to understand its capabilities and its limitations, to find a way to reconcile the seemingly conflicting worlds of science and faith. Kant's journey wasn't about discarding reason, but about understanding its true nature, its power, and its limits. He sought to prove that reason, when used correctly, could not only explain the workings of the physical world, but also provide a solid foundation for our understanding of morality, faith, and our own place in the grand scheme of existence. His critique was a beacon in the storm, a testament to the enduring power of the human mind. It was a masterpiece that would shape the course of philosophy for generations to come, a testament to the enduring power of reason, and a powerful reminder that even in the face of uncertainty, the quest for understanding is always worth the journey. 2.2 Kant's Copernican Revolution in Philosophy. Imagine a young, brilliant philosopher, Immanuel Kant, standing at the precipice of a revolutionary idea. He had just penned his inaugural dissertation, a work that aimed to bridge the seemingly disparate worlds of Newtonian science and traditional morality. His solution, a two-tiered reality, a world of appearances governed by the laws of physics, and a realm of pure reason where divine and moral principles resided. This elegant system seemed to satisfy both the demands of science and the yearning for a deeper, spiritual truth. But soon doubts began to gnaw at Kant. He confided in his friend Marcus Herz, expressing a profound unease. How can we grasp this intelligible world, he wondered, if it's entirely independent of our own minds? How can we know something that doesn't affect us? It was like trying to understand a language spoken by beings on another planet. We might perceive the sounds, but we wouldn't comprehend their meaning. This dilemma was rooted in Kant's suspicion that our minds aren't merely passive recipients of knowledge, but active architects of our reality. He realized that his inaugural dissertation had hit a dead end. The attempt to access an independent, intelligible world was like trying to reach a star by climbing a ladder. The star, being beyond our reach, remained a distant mystery. So, Kant embarked on a journey of self-discovery, much like a sailor venturing into uncharted waters. He began to question the very foundation of knowledge, asking, what are the conditions for any possible experience? He reached a startling conclusion. The world we experience is not a mirror image of an independent reality, but rather a construction of our minds. Our senses provide the raw materials, but our understanding, with its inherent structure, shapes and organizes that data. It's like a sculptor taking a block of marble and shaping it into a magnificent work of art. This revolutionary idea, known as the Copernican revolution in philosophy, shifted the focus from the world conforming to our minds to our minds conforming to the world. It was a radical departure from the traditional view of knowledge, and it had profound implications for both science and morality. Kant argued that we can only have a priori knowledge about the world of appearances, the world we construct through our senses and understanding. This world is governed by laws that are not arbitrary, but are necessary conditions for any possible experience. We can't, for example, imagine a world without cause and effect, because it's a fundamental principle of our understanding. But what about the realm of morality, the realm of God, freedom, and immortality? These concepts, Kant argued, are not derived from experience, but from our moral reason. They are not objects of knowledge, but objects of faith. This is where Kant's genius truly shines. He realized that by limiting knowledge to the world of appearances, he could create space for morality and religion without succumbing to the pitfalls of traditional metaphysics. He essentially separated the realm of science from the realm of faith, allowing both to coexist without conflict. This separation was not a denial of the divine or the moral. It was a recognition of their limits. We can't prove God's existence or the immortality of the soul, but our moral reason compels us to believe in them. This belief, according to Kant, is not based on knowledge, but on a commitment to the highest moral principles. So, in essence, Kant's Copernican revolution in philosophy created a new foundation for both science and morality. He showed that science is possible, but only within the limits of our understanding. He also showed that morality is possible, but only through the exercise of our moral reason. And by separating the two, he allowed both to flourish in their own spheres, enriching our understanding of the world and our place within it. 3. Transcendental idealism. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across the study, illuminating the worn leather of Immanuel Kant's armchair. He sat, hunched over a stack of papers, his brow furrowed in deep concentration. For years he had grappled with a question that had haunted philosophers for centuries. What is the nature of reality? We experience only appearances, he muttered, his voice a low rumble. Not things as they truly are. He envisioned a world beyond the veil of our senses, a realm of things in themselves, unknowable and forever hidden. This unseen world, he believed, was structured by space and time, but not in the way we perceive them. Our minds, he argued, impose these frameworks, these subjective forms of intuition, onto the raw data of experience. Imagine, he mused, a world without the limitations of space and time. A realm where objects exist not in fixed locations, but in a fluid, ever-shifting tapestry. A world where past, present, and future blend into a single, eternal now. This, he believed, was the true nature of reality, the things in themselves. We are like fish, he continued, his voice growing more animated, trapped in an aquarium, believing the glass walls to be the limits of our world. We see only the shadows cast by the outside world, not the world itself. His words sparked a firestorm of debate. Some lauded him as a visionary, others condemned him as a madman. Yet Kant, undeterred, continued to explore the depths of his own mind, seeking to unravel the secrets of human perception. He believed that our minds are not mere passive recipients of sensory information, but active agents, shaping and structuring our experiences. Our senses, he argued, are like a filter, allowing only certain aspects of reality to reach our consciousness. This filter he called transcendental idealism. He envisioned a world beyond the confines of our limited perception, a world that we could never fully grasp. This world, he believed, held the key to understanding the true nature of reality. We are forever bound to the subjective, he concluded, a hint of melancholy in his voice. But by understanding the limitations of our perception, we can begin to glimpse the true nature of the world, hidden behind the veil of appearances. As the candle flickered and died, casting the study in darkness, Kant sat in silence, lost in contemplation. He knew that his ideas would continue to be debated for generations to come, and that his vision of reality, though controversial, would forever challenge our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Psychological aspects. Kant's own struggles, his deep contemplation and the use of vivid imagery suggests an introspective personality, someone grappling with profound philosophical questions, the limitations of human perception. The fish in an aquarium metaphor highlights the concept of our limited understanding of the world. It evokes a sense of curiosity and frustration at the boundaries of our knowledge. The allure of the unknown, the description of the things in themselves as a realm of fluid, ever-shifting reality, evokes a sense of awe and mystery, a desire to understand something beyond our current grasp. The philosophical debate, the depiction of Kant's ideas as sparking firestorm and being debated for generations, suggests the power of his ideas to challenge and stimulate intellectual curiosity, even if they are controversial. 3.1 The Two Objects Interpretation. The air in the dimly lit study crackled with the weight of centuries of philosophical debate. Professor Alistair Blackwood, a man whose wrinkles spoke of years spent wrestling with the intricacies of Immanuel Kant, leaned back in his chair, a sigh escaping his lips. He had dedicated his life to deciphering the complex labyrinth of Kant's transcendental idealism, a philosophy that seemed to offer both profound insight and perplexing contradictions. The two objects' interpretation, he began, his voice a low rumble, is like a shadowy figure lurking at the edge of our understanding. He paused, letting the image sink in. It's the traditional way of understanding Kant, a view that emerged almost as soon as his critique of pure reason was published. He gestured towards a dusty tome on his desk, its pages filled with the meticulous annotations of scholars past. Think of it like a map, drawn by those who first ventured into Kant's uncharted territory. This map, the two objects' interpretation, posits two distinct realms, the world of appearances, the reality we perceive, and the world of things in themselves, a hidden, unknowable realm. Professor Blackwood's eyes twinkled with a mischievous gleam. Imagine, he continued, that you are sitting in your living room, reading a book. The book, the chair, the sunlight streaming through the window, these are all appearances, phenomena constructed by our minds. But behind these appearances, lurking in the shadows, are the things in themselves, the raw, unfiltered reality that we can never truly grasp. He paused for a moment, allowing the students to absorb the concept, their faces a mixture of intrigue and confusion. This interpretation, while influential, has been met with skepticism, even from Kant's contemporaries, he said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. For how can we claim to know that things in themselves exist, that they affect our senses, if we can never directly experience them? He paced across the room, his hands gesturing as he spoke. Think of it like a magician's trick. We see the illusion, the sleight of hand, but the secret, the true mechanics of the trick, remain hidden. Professor Blackwood's gaze turned towards the students, his eyes searching for understanding. Kant's philosophy, when interpreted through this lens, leaves us with a nagging sense of uncertainty. Does it trap us in our own minds, forever separated from the true nature of reality, or does it offer a unique perspective, a way of understanding the limitations of our knowledge, and the power of our own minds to shape our reality? He smiled enigmatically. The question, dear students, is not one of easy answers. It is a question that has plagued philosophers for centuries, and one that continues to intrigue and challenge us today. He paused, his eyes twinkling with the thrill of intellectual pursuit. But that, my friends, is the beauty of philosophy. 3.2 The Two Aspects Interpretation. Imagine a grand library, its shelves overflowing with ancient leather-bound tomes. One particular book, Critique of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant, stands out, its pages whispering secrets of the universe. For centuries, philosophers have delved into its depths, seeking to unravel the mysteries of reality. One particular chapter, Transcendental Idealism, has sparked endless debate. The question, what is the true nature of the world we perceive? Some argue that we see only a pale reflection, a shadowy representation of a deeper, hidden reality. This is like looking at a mirror image, knowing there's a real you behind it, but unable to grasp the true self. This is the two objects interpretation, two separate worlds, one we experience, one we don't. But others, like a detective piecing together clues, propose a different theory. They see the world as a single entity, with two faces like a coin. The side we see, the appearances, are shaped by our senses and minds, like a sculptor shaping clay. But behind this facade there's an in-itself side, hidden from our view. This is the two aspects theory, a more nuanced understanding of reality. One version of this theory paints a picture of objects with two sets of properties, those we perceive, spatial and temporal, and those we don't, hidden and mysterious. This is like a painting with visible brushstrokes and a deeper, unseen structure that gives it form. But this interpretation raises a thorny question. How can we know what we can't perceive? Another version, more radical, sees transcendental idealism as a lens through which we view the world. It's like wearing glasses that shape our perception, allowing us to see certain things clearly, but obscuring others. This perspective, focused on knowledge rather than metaphysics, suggests that we are forever limited to our own human perspective, unable to grasp the true nature of things in themselves. However, like a puzzle with missing pieces, this interpretation leaves some unanswered questions. Does Kant truly limit himself to a purely epistemological view? Are there hidden depths to his theory, a metaphysical layer beneath the surface? The debate continues, the pages of Kant's book echoing with unanswered questions. Like a grand tapestry woven with threads of thought, the true nature of reality remains a mystery, a puzzle waiting to be solved, a story waiting to be told. 4. The Transcendental Deduction. Imagine, if you will, a world where our minds are not just passive vessels for the world to fill, but active architects, building the very reality we perceive. This is the world Immanuel Kant, a philosopher with a mind as sharp as a razor, envisioned in his monumental work, The Critique of Pure Reason. Now, nestled within this complex masterpiece lies a particularly tricky puzzle, a philosophical Rubik's Cube known as the transcendental deduction. It's a mind-bending journey into the very foundations of knowledge, a quest to understand how our minds grasp the world around us. The deduction is like a hidden room in a grand palace, shrouded in mystery and guarded by layers of intricate thought. It's a room where Kant explores the invisible scaffolding that supports our experience, the a priori concepts, the building blocks of thought that lie beneath the surface of our conscious minds. He begins by introducing us to these building blocks, the categories, which he argues are like the blueprints for our understanding. These categories, like substance and cause, are not learned from experience, but are inherent to the way our minds work. They are the invisible lenses through which we perceive the world. But the question arises, how do we know these categories are truly valid? How do we know they accurately reflect the world outside our minds? Here's where the deduction's brilliance shines. Kant argues that these categories are not just mental tools, but necessary conditions for experience itself. They are the very foundation upon which our conscious awareness rests. To understand this, imagine trying to build a house without a blueprint. You might end up with a chaotic mess, a jumbled collection of bricks and beams. Similarly, without the categories, our experience would be a chaotic jumble of sensations, impossible to comprehend. Kant, in his own words, states that these categories must be recognized as a priori conditions of the possibility of experiences. It's like saying that the blueprints are not merely useful for building a house, but are absolutely necessary for its existence. The deduction's genius lies in its unconventional approach, a mind-bending dance of logic and self-awareness. It's a journey that requires us to examine not only the world around us, but also the very structure of our minds, the inner landscape that shapes our perception of reality. As we delve deeper into the deduction, we encounter the concept of apperception, a term borrowed from the philosopher Leibniz. Apperception is the act of self-consciousness, the ability to be aware of ourselves as thinking beings. And here, the deduction takes a surprising turn. Kant argues that the categories are not just necessary for understanding the external world, but also for our own self-awareness. They are the scaffolding, not only for our perception of the world, but also for our understanding of ourselves within it. The deduction, therefore, becomes a journey into the very core of our being, a quest to understand the intricate interplay between our minds and the world. It's a journey that challenges our assumptions, forces us to question the very nature of reality, and leaves us with a deeper appreciation for the complex yet beautiful architecture of our own minds. 4.1 Self-Consciousness. Imagine yourself staring into a mirror, the reflection gazing back with a familiar yet ever-changing face. You see the wrinkles etched by time, the fleeting expressions of emotions, the endless transformations of your being. Yet you know, deep down, that the you staring back, the core of yourself, remains constant, a steady beacon amidst the swirling tides of experience. But what is the source of this unwavering sense of self? This question, like a whispered secret, has haunted philosophers for centuries. Some, like the brilliant John Locke, proposed that self-consciousness arises from the contents of our experiences, the memories, thoughts, and sensations that paint the canvas of our lives. They envisioned the self as a collection of these mental snapshots, a mosaic assembled from the pieces of our inner world. But Immanuel Kant, the enigmatic philosopher of the Enlightenment, saw a flaw in this picture. He argued that our sense of self, like a resilient thread woven through the fabric of our existence, transcends the fleeting nature of our individual experiences. It doesn't arise from the specific contents of our thoughts, but from the very structure, the underlying framework of how our minds perceive and process the world. He believed that our minds are inherently active, shaping our experiences through a set of innate principles, like a sculptor molding clay into a masterpiece. Imagine, for a moment, a symphony. The individual notes, each distinct and fleeting, don't define the symphony's essence. It's the underlying melody, the harmony between the instruments, the structure of the composition that gives the symphony its unique character. Kant saw the mind working in a similar way, shaping our experiences, weaving them into a cohesive tapestry of selfhood. He rejected the notion that our self-consciousness is merely a passive reflection of a pre-existing objective reality. Instead, he argued that the very structure of our minds, the way we perceive and organize information, forms the foundation of our sense of self. Our minds, he proposed, are like active architects, building the world we experience, brick by brick, thought by thought. Kant's concept of the I think, which must accompany every representation, captures this active nature of the mind. He believed that we can't truly understand a thought without first recognizing it as our own, without bringing it into the sphere of our conscious awareness. It's like a stamp of authenticity, a mark that signifies the I that experiences and shapes the world. This idea, revolutionary for its time, sparked a firestorm of debate. Some argued that Kant's focus on the mind's active role in constructing reality diminished the importance of the external world. Others questioned the source of these innate principles, wondering how they could be universal and necessary if they weren't derived from experience. Yet, Kant's ideas continue to resonate, offering a powerful lens through which to examine the nature of self-consciousness. They challenge us to move beyond the limitations of our individual experiences and explore the deeper, more fundamental structures that shape our understanding of the world and ourselves. So, the next time you stand before a mirror, consider the intricate dance between your changing experiences and the enduring core of yourself. Remember that the you see, the I that thinks and feels, is not simply a collection of thoughts, but a product of your mind's unique and active construction of reality. 4.2 Objectivity and Judgment. Imagine yourself standing before a grand old house, its imposing size dwarfing your own. You can't see it all at once, but as you walk around taking in each side, you realize a remarkable thing. You're not merely observing, you're piecing together a whole, a unified structure. This act, this mental stitching together of disparate parts, is the very essence of what it means to be self-conscious, according to the brilliant philosopher Immanuel Kant. Kant saw self-consciousness as more than just being aware of ourselves. It's a profound act of creation, a mental dance between the world and our own inner landscape. We don't just passively absorb the world, we actively shape it through the very way we think. Think of it like this. You see a house, but it's not just any house, it's the house where you grew up, the one that holds a lifetime of memories. You feel a pang of nostalgia, a feeling unique to you. But is that nostalgia part of the house itself, or is it a subjective connection, a personal overlay? Kant argued that this ability to distinguish between objective properties of the world, like the house's sides, and our own subjective experiences, like the feeling of nostalgia, is a hallmark of self-consciousness. It's the mind's way of claiming its own space, of understanding itself as separate from the world it perceives. But how does the mind achieve this distinction? Kant believed that the key lies in the act of judging, of weaving together different thoughts and perceptions into a cohesive understanding. Just like we stitch together the sides of the house to form a complete picture, we mentally connect concepts and experiences, creating a coherent understanding of the world around us. Each judgment, according to Kant, is a small act of creation, a building block of our self-conscious experience. It's through this process of judging, of bringing order to the chaos of our perceptions, that we establish the very foundations of objective reality. But there's a deeper twist to this story. Kant believed that this act of judging isn't just a passive process, it's governed by pre-existing rules, a mental framework that we bring to the world. He called these rules categories, and they are the very foundation of how we understand cause and effect, time and space, and the very nature of things. Think of it like a set of mental lenses that we wear, shaping our perception of the world. These categories are not learned from experience, they are inherent to our very being, allowing us to see the world in a structured, meaningful way. So, the next time you walk by a house, remember that you're not just seeing bricks and mortar, you're participating in a complex mental process of judging and understanding, one that allows you to distinguish between the objective world and the rich tapestry of your own subjective experience. You're a self-conscious being, actively shaping the world around you, one judgment at a time. 4.3 The Lawgiver of Nature. Imagine a grand tapestry woven from the threads of our experiences. Every sight, every sound, every feeling, every thought, all interwoven into the fabric of our reality. But what if these threads were loose and chaotic, a jumbled mess without any discernible pattern? Could we truly grasp the world around us? Could we even recognize ourselves within it? This is where Immanuel Kant, the philosopher who dared to map the boundaries of human knowledge, steps in. He argues that for us to be truly self-aware, for our understanding to grasp the world, we need a unifying framework, a grand design to hold it all together. Think of it like building a house. You need a sturdy foundation, a blueprint, a plan. For our minds, this foundation is space and time. Not just the space we occupy and the time that passes, but a unified, unbounded space-time, a grand stage where all our experiences are played out. But why is this so crucial? Well, imagine we had separate, independent worlds, each with its own rules, its own space-time. It would be like living in a fragmented dream, unable to connect the dots, unable to weave a coherent narrative of our lives. Think of it like this. You wake up in a bustling city filled with sounds, sights, and smells. Then, you suddenly find yourself in a serene forest, surrounded by nature's whispers. How could you recognize yourself as the same being experiencing these two vastly different scenarios? This is the crux of Kant's argument. We need a single, unified space-time to link our experiences, to make them part of a cohesive whole. This is how we become conscious of ourselves, how we recognize our own thoughts and feelings as part of a continuous unfolding story. But it doesn't stop there. Kant goes further, suggesting that our minds don't merely observe this world, they actively shape it. We don't just see the world as it is, we construct it. Think of it like an artist with a canvas. They don't just paint what's in front of them, they use their imagination, their understanding, to create a new world on the canvas. In the same way, our minds, through the lens of space and time, organize and structure our experiences, giving them meaning and coherence. This means that the laws of nature, the order we see in the universe, are not simply inherent to the world itself, but rather a product of our own minds. We bring the laws of nature into existence. We are the architects of our reality. Kant's argument is audacious, challenging our very understanding of ourselves and the world. It invites us to look beyond the surface, to delve into the depths of our own minds, to realize that the fabric of reality is woven not just from the threads of the world, but also from the threads of our own understanding. 5. Morality and freedom. Imagine, if you will, a grand tapestry woven with intricate threads of thought. Each thread represents a different facet of human understanding, each color a different shade of truth. This tapestry, so vast and intricate, is the work of Immanuel Kant, a philosopher who dared to unravel the mysteries of both the physical world and the realm of morality. We've already glimpsed two of the tapestry's most prominent threads, transcendental idealism and the transcendental deduction. These threads, woven together, reveal how we construct our own understanding of the world, how our minds shape the reality we perceive. But that's just one side of the story. Now, let us turn our gaze to the other side of the tapestry, to the realm of practical philosophy, where Kant explores the very nature of morality. He asks, what is the foundation of right and wrong? How can we know what is good and what is evil? To understand this side of Kant's work, we must first recognize the seamless connection between his theoretical and practical philosophies. It's like two sides of a coin, each revealing a different aspect of the same truth. This is where the brilliance of Kant's system truly shines. But why is this connection so important? Why does understanding the way we perceive the world matter when it comes to morality? This is where things get truly fascinating. Kant believed that our ability to reason, the very foundation of our theoretical understanding, also forms the bedrock of our moral compass. He argued that we are not simply driven by instincts or desires, but by a deeper sense of duty, a universal moral law that resides within us. This is where the psychology of human beings becomes crucial. Why do some individuals follow this inner moral law, while others seem to disregard it? Could it be that some are more attuned to their inner sense of duty, while others are more swayed by immediate desires and impulses? These are the questions that Kant's practical philosophy seeks to answer, and it's a journey that will lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the very nature of morality itself. So, let us embark on this journey together and see what treasures we may uncover in the tapestry of Kant's philosophical masterpiece. 5.1 Theoretical and Practical Autonomy. Imagine a bustling marketplace, filled with vendors hawking their wares, and the air thick with the murmur of conversations. Amidst the chaos, a quiet philosopher sits, his gaze fixed on a single, intricate clockwork mechanism. This is Immanuel Kant, and the clockwork is a metaphor for the universe, a grand complex system governed by unseen laws. Kant believes that we, as humans, are the clockmakers, not just the observers. He argues that our minds, like the clockmaker's tools, shape the world we experience. We don't simply perceive the world as it is, but rather we construct it based on inherent, pre-programmed categories of understanding, like the gears and springs of the clock. These categories, he says, are the building blocks of our knowledge, the framework through which we understand the world. Now imagine a second clockmaker, this time crafting not a physical mechanism, but a moral code. This is Kant again, but now he's exploring the realm of ethics. He believes that we have the capacity for self-governance, that we can choose to act based on a universal moral law, a set of principles that are independent of our desires and impulses. This moral law he calls the categorical imperative, a universal principle that guides our actions and compels us to treat others as ends in themselves, not merely as means to our own ends. The two clocks, the clockwork of the world and the moral code of our actions, are intricately intertwined. Kant believes that by understanding the structure of our minds and the principles of morality, we can not only comprehend the world, but also shape it into a better place. He calls this the highest good, a state of harmony between our moral duties and our desire for happiness. However, this pursuit of the highest good isn't without its challenges. Our innate desire for happiness can clash with our moral duty, and our understanding of the world can be clouded by illusions and biases. Kant acknowledges these limitations, but he remains optimistic. He believes that through reason and self-reflection, we can overcome these obstacles and ultimately create a world that is both rational and just. Kant's philosophy is a complex tapestry woven from threads of reason, morality, and self-reflection. It's a philosophy that challenges us to be not just passive observers, but active creators of our own reality, both in the world of experience and in the realm of ethics. It's a philosophy that invites us to delve into the depths of our own minds and to discover the power of autonomy, the power to shape our world and to live a life guided by reason and morality. 5.2 Freedom. Let's imagine a bustling city, full of people rushing about, each with their own story, their own motivations. We see a man, let's call him John, caught red-handed stealing a watch from a shop. Now, most of us would immediately think, that's wrong. We'd feel a sense of injustice, perhaps even anger towards John. But what if I told you that John's action was predetermined? What if his choices, his very being, were nothing more than a complex chain reaction of events, set in motion long before he was even born? This is the heart of a philosophical debate that's been raging for centuries, the question of free will. Does our ability to make choices truly exist, or are we just puppets dancing to the strings of fate? This was a question that deeply troubled the great philosopher, Immanuel Kant. He believed that our ability to be morally responsible, to judge right and wrong, hinges on the idea that we are free, that our choices are truly our own. Imagine for a moment, if you will, that John's theft was not a conscious decision, but a series of events unfolding like a domino effect. Perhaps he was born with a predisposition to steal. Maybe his upbringing was rough. Maybe he was driven to desperation by circumstance. If we were to accept this, would we still hold him morally responsible? Would we still feel that sense of injustice? Kant believed that we couldn't. He argued that for an action to be morally wrong, it must be a choice made freely, a decision made from a place of true agency. He compared this to a clock, its gears and springs, its movements all predetermined, all subject to the laws of physics. Is a clock responsible for the time it keeps? No, it's simply following the mechanisms that were set in motion. Kant believed that the compatibilists, those who tried to reconcile free will with determinism, were like those who would try to explain the freedom of a clock by saying that its movement is caused by internal mechanisms. They were missing the point. So what is the source of our freedom? Kant believed that it lies in a realm beyond our senses, a realm he called the noumenal self. This self is not bound by the laws of time and space. It is not subject to the cause and effect relationships that govern the physical world. It is the true source of our choices, our moral compass. But this idea raises many questions. If our actions are ultimately governed by this noumenal self, why are we only responsible for our own actions and not for the entire natural world? How do these multiple noumenal selves interact, shaping our reality? These are just a few of the puzzles that Kant left unanswered. Yet he believed that grappling with these questions, even if we never find definitive answers, is essential for understanding our place in the world, for understanding what it means to be human, to be moral beings. Ultimately, Kant's exploration of freedom leads us to a profound and unsettling question. Are we truly free, or are we simply playing out a script that was written long ago? It is a question that continues to resonate today, challenging us to look beyond the surface of our actions and delve into the depths of our being, seeking the source of our choices, the essence of our freedom. 5.3 The Fact of Reason. Imagine a world where every action, every thought, is predetermined. A cosmic clockwork ticking away, orchestrating every move, every choice. That's the world some philosophers envisioned, a world without free will. But then comes Immanuel Kant, a philosopher who dared to challenge this deterministic view. He argued that we humans, unlike gears in a machine, have a spark of freedom within us. Kant's argument is a bit like a puzzle box, with layers of logic and nuance. He says we don't have theoretical knowledge of our freedom, like knowing the formula for water. We can't prove it with scientific experiments. But he adds, we have a deep-seated moral belief in our freedom, a feeling that we are not just puppets on strings. Think of it this way. Imagine you're faced with a difficult choice. Should you cheat on a test or tell the truth and risk failing? The voice of your conscience whispers, do the right thing. This inner voice, Kant says, is the moral law, and it's a sign that we're free to choose. We can choose to follow the moral law or not. Now, some might say, but I'm only choosing what I'm programmed to choose. But Kant argues that the very fact that we can feel guilty about our choices, even if we make the wrong one, shows we have the capacity to act otherwise. We have the potential to be good, even if we sometimes fail. This feeling of guilt, this awareness of our moral responsibility, is what Kant calls the fact of reason. It's a fundamental truth about humanity, a truth we don't need to prove because we experience it directly. It's like the feeling of gravity. We don't need a scientific explanation to know it's real. Kant's argument is powerful because it taps into something deeply human, the feeling of agency, the sense that we have control over our lives. It's a sense that we are not just passive observers in the world, but active participants shaping our own destinies. Of course, some might argue that this sense of freedom is an illusion, a product of our brains. But Kant, with his intricate logic, insists that this illusion is the very foundation of our moral lives. It's the spark that ignites our conscience, the driving force behind our efforts to be good. So, while we might not be able to prove our freedom definitively, it's a belief that shapes our lives, a belief that gives us hope, a belief that allows us to strive for something better. It's a belief that makes us human. 5.4 The Categorical Imperative. The air hung heavy with the scent of old parchment and the quiet hum of contemplation. In a dimly lit study, a scholar, hunched over a worn copy of Kant's Critique of Practical Reason, grappled with a profound question: what is freedom, and how does it intertwine with morality? He found himself drawn to Kant's intricate argument, a philosophical tapestry woven with threads of reason and logic. Kant, like a master architect, meticulously laid out the foundation for his theory, starting with the very act of willing. He argued that every action, even the most mundane, is driven by a maxim, a subjective rule we follow, often without conscious awareness. Imagine, for instance, a man who refuses to tolerate an insult, his maxim, to let no insult pass unavenged, or a businessman driven by the maxim, to increase my wealth by every safe means. These maxims, like invisible threads, guide our actions, revealing our underlying motivations. Kant, however, delved deeper. He proposed that we act on two types of principles, material and formal. Material principles are driven by our desires, the craving for coffee, the yearning for recognition. These lead us to act on hypothetical imperatives, which dictate what we should do if we desire a particular outcome. If you want coffee, Kant might say, then go to the cafe. Formal principles, however, operate on a different plane. They are not bound by desires, but by universal rules, what Kant called categorical imperatives. These apply unconditionally, regardless of our personal goals. Do not steal, he might proclaim, even if you desperately need the object. It was here that the scholar felt a shiver of excitement. Kant was suggesting that freedom, true freedom, lies not in the pursuit of our desires, but in the adherence to these universal moral laws. He argued that acting on material principles, driven by our desires, chains us to the whims of our nature. We become slaves to our cravings, our choices dictated by the very forces we seek to control. But by embracing formal principles, by aligning our actions with the categorical imperative, we step into the realm of autonomy. We become the architects of our own choices, crafting our actions not out of necessity, but out of a commitment to universal morality. The scholar paused, his mind wrestling with the implications. He imagined a man faced with a moral dilemma, a lost deposit, its owner deceased, no record to prove its existence. Could he, driven by the maxim to increase my wealth, claim it for himself? Kant's test was simple, yet profound. Could this maxim be willed as a universal law? Could everyone claim lost deposits, knowing that the very foundation of trust would crumble? The answer, like a cold wind, was clear. The scholar realized that while feelings and desires might spark our actions, true freedom resided in the conscious choice to act on principles that could be willed universally. It was a daunting responsibility, but one that held the promise of true autonomy, a liberation from the shackles of our desires, and a step towards a world governed by reason and morality. 6. The highest good and practical postulates. Imagine a world where everyone acted with perfect virtue, a world where every choice, every action, was guided by the unwavering compass of morality, a world where that virtue wasn't just a fleeting ideal, but blossomed into a garden of happiness, where every soul experienced a contentment as vast as the universe itself. This, according to the great philosopher Immanuel Kant, is the highest good, a state of harmonious perfection where virtue and happiness intertwine like threads in a tapestry of ideal existence. But how do we, flawed and imperfect beings, ever hope to reach such a sublime destination? Kant believed that our very nature, our innate capacity for reason, guides us towards this goal. It's not just a fleeting fantasy, but a powerful force that compels us to strive for this highest good. Yet, the path to this utopia is fraught with obstacles. Our world, as we know it, is a symphony of contradictions, good deeds often met with misfortune, and virtuous souls often suffering injustice. This dissonance, this conflict between virtue and happiness, poses a profound question. Is the highest good merely a beautiful dream, a mirage shimmering on the horizon of possibility? Kant, however, believed that the very concept of the highest good implies its possibility. If we, as rational beings, are drawn to this ideal, it must exist, for reason wouldn't lead us astray. But here's the catch. For this perfect harmony to exist, for virtue to be rewarded and happiness to flow like a river, two things must be true. We must believe in the immortality of the soul, a realm where virtue can be perfected even after death. And we must believe in God, a benevolent force that can ensure that the scales of justice are balanced, that the universe ultimately rewards virtue with happiness. To Kant, these weren't mere religious beliefs, but philosophical necessities. They were postulates of pure practical reason, meaning they were not demonstrable through logic or scientific observation, but essential for our moral compass to function, for our drive to strive for the highest good to be truly meaningful. So the next time you witness injustice, the next time you grapple with the complexities of life, remember Kant's philosophy. The pursuit of the highest good, a world of perfect virtue and happiness, might seem like a distant dream, but it's a dream that fuels our moral compass, a dream that drives us to strive for a better world, a world where justice and happiness ultimately prevail. 6.1 The highest good. Imagine a world where every action is judged not by its outcome, but by the intention behind it. This is the world envisioned by the great philosopher, Immanuel Kant, a world governed by what he calls the moral law. Picture a young man, let's call him Thomas, caught in a moral dilemma. He's walking down a street when he sees a person in need, struggling to carry a heavy box. Thomas, a kind soul, feels a pang of empathy and wants to help. But then a thought creeps in. If I help this person, I'll miss my bus, and then I'll be late for work and my boss might get mad at me. This internal struggle reflects a common human dilemma, the clash between our natural desires and the moral law. For Kant, the moral worth of an action lies not in its consequences, but in its adherence to a universal principle. So, according to Kant, Thomas should help the person in need, not because it will make him feel good or because it will avoid consequences, but because helping others is the right thing to do, regardless of the outcome. It's a universal principle, a law that applies to everyone, regardless of their personal desires or circumstances. Kant goes even further. He argues that our reason naturally compels us to think about the ultimate consequences of our actions. We strive to achieve a state of happiness where all our desires and inclinations are fulfilled. But happiness alone is not enough. It must be accompanied by virtue, the act of following the moral law. This brings us to the concept of the highest good, a state of perfect harmony where everyone acts morally and everyone is happy. It's an ideal, a goal that guides our actions, a beacon of hope that we strive to reach. But how do we reach this highest good? Kant argues that we must believe in its possibility. We must not see it as a mere phantom of the mind, but as a realizable goal. And this belief in its possibility, he claims, is essential for fulfilling our duty to promote the highest good. It's a challenging concept, this highest good, a complex interplay of morality, happiness, and the human desire for something more. But for Kant, it's not a utopian dream, but a guiding principle, a call to action. It's a reminder that we can, and should, strive for a world where everyone acts morally and everyone finds happiness. 6.2 The Postulates of Pure Practical Reason. Imagine a world where everyone acts with unwavering moral compass, a world of complete goodness and happiness. This is the highest good, a concept that captivated the mind of Immanuel Kant, a philosopher who sought to understand the very foundation of morality. But Kant, a keen observer of human nature, recognized a fundamental flaw. We, as humans, are inherently susceptible to the pull of our desires, our inclinations. We often prioritize what feels good over what is right, a tendency he called radical evil. This means achieving that perfect state of holiness, where actions perfectly align with moral law, seems impossible in our earthly existence. So, how can we even strive for this highest good if it seems perpetually out of reach? This is where Kant's genius shines through. He proposed that we must believe in two things: the immortality of the soul and the existence of God. Think of it as a ladder reaching for the heavens. Each step represents a moral improvement, a closer adherence to duty. But this ladder extends infinitely, never reaching a final destination. The concept of an immortal soul gives us the hope and the motivation to keep climbing, to keep striving for that elusive perfection, even if it's beyond our grasp in this life. But why God? Here's where Kant's argument gets fascinating. He argued that true virtue should lead to happiness, not as a reward in some distant afterlife, but as a natural consequence of living a good life. This is like saying, if you plant a seed and nurture it, it will blossom into a beautiful flower. Yet, we see so much injustice in the world. Good people often suffer, while the wicked prosper. This suggests that there's no natural law guaranteeing happiness as a result of virtue. This is where God steps in, as the ultimate orchestrator of the universe, ensuring that virtue and happiness are ultimately intertwined, even if it's beyond our human comprehension. Kant's arguments are not about proving God or immortality objectively. They are about how we must believe in them, because without this belief, the very foundation of morality crumbles. Think of it like this: if you believe that a grand symphony is possible, you'll be more motivated to practice your instrument. Similarly, believing in God and immortality fuels our pursuit of the highest good, even though it's a never-ending journey. Kant's idea was not to make us complacent, but to inspire us. To recognize that even though we're flawed, our journey towards a better world is a continuous one, and that ultimate justice and happiness are not just wishful thinking, but a reality we can strive for, with God as the ultimate harmonizer of our actions and their consequences. 7. The unity of nature and freedom. Imagine a grand library, filled with towering shelves of ancient wisdom. Within its depths, a lone scholar, Immanuel Kant, pored over dusty tomes, his brow furrowed in concentration. He was on a quest, a journey to unify two seemingly disparate realms of human experience, the world of reason and the world of feeling. Kant, a master of logic and deduction, had already mapped the terrain of pure reason in his Critique of Pure Reason. He'd shown how our minds structure our perception of the world, creating categories like time, space, and causality. But there was another side to human experience, the world of beauty, art, and moral judgment. This was the realm of feeling, a realm that seemed to defy the rigid rules of logic. In his critique of the power of judgment, Kant embarked on a daring expedition to bridge this gap. He sought to understand how we could find meaning and purpose in a world that seemed chaotic and unpredictable. He believed that the key lay in the faculty of judgment, a unique human capacity that allowed us to make connections between the world of reason and the world of feeling. But how could this faculty of judgment work its magic? Some might say that judgment was simply a matter of personal preference. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, they declare. But Kant saw something deeper. He believed that our judgments about beauty and morality were not arbitrary. They were grounded in a universal sense of purposiveness, a feeling that things are designed for a particular end. Think of a beautiful sunset. We don't just see the colors and shapes. We feel a sense of wonder, a sense that this spectacle is meant to be enjoyed. Similarly, when we judge an act as morally good, we feel a sense that it is right and just, that it aligns with a higher purpose. Kant argued that our faculty of judgment allows us to perceive this purposiveness in the world. He called it the subjective universal, a concept that bridges the gap between our individual experiences and universal principles. It's as if we're able to glimpse a hidden order in the world, a harmony that resonates with our deepest sense of what is right and good. This was Kant's grand vision, a vision that sought to reconcile the head and the heart, reason and feeling. He believed that by understanding the power of judgment, we could not only make sense of the world around us, but also find our place within it, guided by a sense of purpose and a deep appreciation for the beauty and wonder that surrounds us. 7.1 The Great Chasm. Imagine a grand library, filled with towering shelves holding volumes of knowledge. One section, meticulously organized, housed the works of science, revealing the intricate mechanisms of nature, a clockwork universe of cause and effect. Next to it, a different realm, a realm of morality, where freedom and responsibility reigned supreme. This was the domain of human action, of duty and virtue. But between these two a chasm yawned, a silent abyss separating the cold, hard logic of science from the warm, subjective world of human values. This was the dilemma that plagued Immanuel Kant, a philosopher of the Enlightenment, a man who sought to reconcile the seemingly irreconcilable. He saw the brilliance of modern science, its ability to unravel the secrets of the universe, but he also saw the danger it posed to the foundations of morality and religion. The fear was that science, with its focus on the tangible, would leave no room for the intangible, for the very essence of what it means to be human. Kant's solution was a bold one, a bridge spanning the chasm. He proposed a third faculty of the mind, a reflecting judgment, that could see the world through both scientific and moral lenses. This faculty, he argued, was not about determining how the world actually is, but rather how we understand it, how we make sense of the vast tapestry of existence. It was like a skilled artist who, while understanding the individual pigments and brushstrokes, could also see the overall harmony and beauty of the painting. This reflecting judgment allowed us to see the world not just as a collection of facts, but as a purposeful whole, with every part playing a role in a larger, harmonious design. But here's the catch. This purposiveness was not a property of the world itself, but a way of understanding it. It was like wearing glasses that allowed us to see the beauty of a sunset, even though the sunset itself was just a natural phenomenon of light and atmosphere. This perspective, while not objectively true, provided a crucial link between our scientific understanding of the world and our moral sense of purpose. Kant's solution wasn't about erasing the line between science and morality, but about finding a way to see them as complementary forces, each playing a vital role in our understanding of the world and our place within it. It was a way of navigating the labyrinth of knowledge, finding meaning in the midst of complexity, and ultimately making sense of ourselves and our world. 7.2 The Purposiveness of Nature. Imagine a world where the most intricate clockwork, the most beautiful sunset, and the very life that pulsates around us all whisper a silent story of purpose. This isn't a story of a divine watchmaker meticulously crafting each gear, but a deeper, more subtle whisper, a whisper that speaks of the way our minds interact with the world. This is the story of Immanuel Kant, a philosopher who dared to delve into the mind's hidden workings to understand how we perceive the world as purposeful, even when it may not be. Kant, in his critique of the power of judgment, invites us to consider how our minds, like curious children, seek patterns and meaning in the world around them. He says we perceive nature through 4 distinct lenses, each revealing a different facet of this purposiveness. First, imagine a scientist meticulously observing the world, seeking to unravel its secrets. Their experiments, their hypotheses, all rest on the unspoken assumption that nature is inherently logical, that it follows rules we can understand. This isn't a belief in an intentional designer, but rather a subtle, instinctive understanding that the world is structured, that there are laws waiting to be discovered. It's like a child instinctively understanding that there's a reason why a ball falls when dropped, even if they don't know the laws of gravity. This, according to Kant, is the first way we perceive nature as purposive, through the lens of empirical laws. Next, imagine a painter captivated by a vibrant sunset, its colors swirling in a breathtaking dance. The beauty they perceive isn't simply a matter of personal preference, but something deeper, something that resonates with a universal sense of harmony. It's as if the sunset, in its unintentional beauty, speaks to a deeper harmony within our own minds, a harmony between imagination and understanding. This, Kant says, is the second lens, the lens of aesthetic judgment, where beauty becomes a reflection of our own internal harmony. But what about the living world, the intricate complexity of a flower, a bird, or even ourselves? How can we understand the seemingly intentional design of organisms when we know they weren't created by a conscious mind? This is where Kant offers a third lens, a lens of objective purposiveness. It's like a puzzle where each piece seems perfectly designed to fit with the others, even though we can't fully grasp the grand scheme. This, according to Kant, is a reflection of our own limitations, a way of making sense of the world that's both necessary and incomplete. Finally, imagine stepping back from the individual details, looking at the vastness of the universe, the intricate web of life, and asking the ultimate question, what is the purpose of it all? This is the fourth and final lens where we perceive nature as a whole, a grand design with a purpose that transcends our individual understanding. It's as if we see the universe as a story that speaks of our own moral responsibility, our own potential for good, and the ultimate purpose of life itself. This, according to Kant, is the lens of morality, a lens that reveals the interconnectedness of all things and our own place within this grand narrative. So, the next time you gaze at a starlit sky or feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, remember the silent whispers of purpose that surround you. It's not a story of a divine watchmaker, but a story of how our minds, in their endless search for meaning, create a world that's both beautiful and profound. This is the story of Kant, the story of the mind's journey into the heart of nature's purpose.